Kia ora.
How are you?
Yes.
Cool, thanks. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you. Bye. Everyone good?
You guys all ready?
Yeah. Thanks, mate.
Sure, ready to go? Hey, listen, well, firstly, can I just say thanks so much for coming out here. We really appreciate it. It's been a day where I've been spending in the Hamilton West electorate again, and it's been a great opportunity to catch up with firstly some aged care workers and facilities and residential care, and also to spend some time with some businesses as well. I'm happy to take any questions you have.
Minister, Labour announced changes for food and drivers. Is this policy just on the floor?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's fine. My bigger issue is the police pursuit policy. It's something that was raised 6 months ago. There was an announcement about an announcement, and there's actually not a response coming until next year. And so the real issue is, if you're not apprehending 80% of fleeing criminals, that's a big problem. And so, we support what's announced today. I guess the reality is most of the cars are actually stolen. It may have some implications for extended family members as well, so I want to understand some of that detail. But fundamentally, the big issue is, what are we changing operationally in the pursuit policy so that we can get back to apprehending at least 40% plus of fleeing criminals instead of what we're doing today, which is only 1 in 5 are actually getting caught and apprehended. So that's the core issue. That's what I really want to see action for police.
And in terms of the by-election, how crucial is it for you to win this seat?
Well, look, I mean, we're doing everything we possibly can. This is a really difficult seat for us to win. The Labour Party have a massive majority as a party vote, but also as a candidate vote. And when you think about other Labour Party strongholds, this seat is a very, very strong stronghold for the Labour Party. But I'm telling you now, the number one issue that people in Hamilton West are concerned about is crime. And what we have is a government that is soft on crime, that actually hasn't shown enough care for the victims and hasn't got serious consequences for serious repeat offenders. And people in Hamilton West are over it and they're sick of it, and that's why this is the number one issue for this campaign. We've got an outstanding candidate in Tama Potaka. Tama understands this area well. He's done more for Hamilton West than anybody else. But I just say to everybody, if you actually want to send a message to this government that it's just not good enough, that this country is going backwards with respect to crime, cost of living, healthcare system falling apart, failing levels of education, and what we're seeing is a housing crisis still there. If you want to send a message, you have to vote and you have to get out and talk about it. A lot of people can talk about it and be very frustrated with the government, but the only thing that changes it is voting. So that's what we need people to understand and vote and send Tama Potaka to Wellington to send a message to this government that's just not good enough.
Was it a deliberate decision to have a candidate that, like yourself, is coming in from outside of politics?
Well, I mean, Tamo is someone I've known for 18 months or more. I've got huge respect for him. I met him initially, actually when I came into botany, and he just saw the incredible work that he was doing in Māori development with Ngātai and the local iwi. He has an amazing commercial track record, having worked at the Super Fund, having worked with Tainui. As I said, he's done more for Hamilton West than any candidate in this race, big time. And so he understands how to get things done. He's got a great commercial brain. High integrity, really smart individual, and I want him in our team. And I want to, when we go to government, we're going to need to have a really talented team, and Tama's going to be a big part of that.
If citizens are facing all the issues you just talked about, why are they going to have time or mental space to focus on voting?
Well, I mean, that's the challenge, isn't it? I mean, that's the reality, is that, there'll be voter fatigue. People have just gone through local body elections across the country and here in Hamilton West. The election's on December the 10th, in the middle of Christmas and end of year school wind down. And that's the challenge for us, to make sure that people understand there is a by-election going on here. It's not ideal timing, I get all of that, but it's the reality for everybody. And so that's why Tom is doing an exceptionally good job and has done from day one of getting out and about, meeting lots of people, getting the story across that if you want to be tough on crime and you actually want crime solved, vote for Tamapataka. If you want to deal with this cost of living crisis that is impacting all New Zealanders and send them backwards, vote for Tamapataka. We have the best ideas to take the country forward, and he's going to be a great representative for Hamilton West.
Mr. Luxon, we've been with a retailer this morning who he's been done twice in weeks. He is actually up there fixing his own roller door today. He's putting in his own bollards at his own cost. He's had a guts full.
Yep.
What would National do differently? Because he can't wait for the government to get here in.
Yeah, well that's...
How could you make a difference?
Well, that's the point, is what we've been saying is right from the get-go we've got a really great plan in order to come back on serious repeat offenders with proper hard consequences for serious crime, and then we need to back up the victims much, much more strongly. The government's been way too slow. 6 months ago they announced this crime prevention thing under political pressure, and only 8 businesses have actually been completed. I meet with ram raiders and victims of ram raiders, each week, and I can tell you, it's causing huge fear, pain, anxiety, worry and stress. And so I understand why he's actually taking matters into his own hands. He shouldn't have to do that. But there shouldn't be a crime wave like we have in New Zealand. And we have to have a serious conversation with ourselves about, are we going to accept that this is the new normal and this is just how New Zealand is from this point onwards, and this is what we come to accept? But I'm sorry, I'm not here to accept a 20% increase in violent crime. I'm not here to accept that there's going to be a 50% growth in gangs, and we're not going to have a ram raid happening every 15 hours in this country. And so we need to be tough and have much more serious consequences for serious offenders, and we need to back up victims who actually are feeling not safe in their own businesses, their own houses, their communities.
There are global shortages for things like bollards though. National has no control over that, so why should people think that you can make a difference?
Well, I tell you, this government is literally making this up on the fly. It has literally been put together. You saw the announcements just in this week under huge political and public pressure. They are soft on crime. They have not shown enough care for victims, and they're not doing enough to put serious offenders, have serious consequences for serious offenders.
A vote for Tama isn't really going to do anything about crime, though, is it? Because you're still the opposition.
No, but the point is we're sending a message very strongly to the government. We want you to do something. We need you to do something. There has to be better, there has to be a response. At the moment, we have a government whose only metrics, actually, and only activity in the whole justice space has had to have a 30% reduction in the prison population. That's their measured goal for the justice portfolio. And the only other thing they've done is repeal 3 strikes. So if you think about it, what we want to focus on is how we're going to reduce crime. We would love to see a 30% reduction in the prison population if we had a 30% reduction in crime, but the reality is we don't. We've got a reduction in prison population while we've got rapidly rising levels of crime. That is just not good enough. And I just put it to you that the primary responsibility of any government is to make sure it protects its citizens and they feel safe in their own homes, their own businesses, their own communities. And New Zealanders are not feeling safe. I was here a few days ago, and it was interesting just seeing the community support for for the vigil that we had actually out on the street, and just seeing people tooting and honking their support. I've been and talked to all of the employees several months ago that were robbed at Hamilton at the base with Michael Hill Jewellers. They got incredible support from the community, who felt incredibly let down that they'd gone through that horrific experience. So we know the community feels really strongly about it. The community wants to feel safe. And this government, frankly, is just reacting to public and political pressure rather than actually having a proper plan to put proper consequences in place to make sure there are rights and responsibilities being built into our social contract with each other, and at the same hand making sure that there is actually support for victims.
Tama, you're seeking to be the representative for this community. What do you share with the people of this community?
Well, I've spent many years, 10 years, living in the community, helping to build homes, helping to build infrastructure, and helping to build the community, running charitable events with my wife and a whole bunch of other things. My wife's actually from around the corner here in Dinsdale, Hamilton West, so I'm really indoctrinated and engrossed in the community and here to help serve the people of Hamilton West, the hard-working people of Hamilton West, and be a strong voice for them in Parliament. Right now, there is no voice for the people of Hamilton West in Parliament, so I'm here to be that strong voice.
Were you planning on running for the seat in the general election, or how much of a surprise was it to find yourself?
Well, it was a surprise, but a nice surprise for me, and I've made it through this process, and now I put my hand up for the by-election, and that's my sole focus. I've resigned from my role, and I'm here to win. Although I am the underdog, I'm here to work hard and earn the right to be the MP.
Was there a plan to go for next year?
There was a plan for me to put up my hand for this location here in Hamilton, and here I am today.
Tama, how seriously is National taking this by-election?
Very seriously. I feel like I'm the halfback and there's a whole team, not of 15, but of 1,500, maybe 5 million people around me who really want National to be back in government, and it starts right here in Hamilton West with the hard-working people.
Awesome. All right, any other questions, guys? Great, appreciate your time. Thanks for coming out. Take care. Have a good rest of the day. See ya.